deals with the United States, took advantage of the United States on manufacturing, on just about everything, every aspect.
Canada has appointed a fentanyl czar, leased Black Hawk helicopters, and designated drug cartels as terror organizations.
While Donald Trump believes that goods are going to rise exponentially and therefore the United States coffers are somehow mysteriously going to get filled as a result.
Trump just flipped his entire tariff plan after one day of economic pressure. The man who claimed tariffs were his ultimate weapon suddenly backpedaled when faced with the harsh reality of market forces. But the real story is what's happening behind the scenes. Pierre Poilievre just unveiled a counter-strategy so brilliant, it's making Trump nervous. I'm breaking down exactly how this power shift happened and why it changes everything for Canada's economy. Can you believe what just happened? Trump put these massive tariffs on Canada, then completely backtracked in just one day.
It's not fair for us to be supporting Canada, and if we don't support them, they don't subsist as a nation.
That means on March 4th, the U.S. will slap 25% tariffs on goods from Canada and Mexico.
This is the economic meltdown nobody's talking about. When Trump first dropped his tariff bombshell, threatening to slap a whopping 25% tax on everything coming from Canada, markets across North America went into absolute panic mode.
Donald Trump's mind is set, and now Russia may help him get through this trade war he's about to launch.
This is going to bring tremendous pain, tremendous inconvenience for millions of Americans, and of course,
Wall Street traders were frantically selling off stocks, with the Dow Jones plummeting nearly 400 points in the hours following the announcement. American manufacturers who depend on Canadian parts for their assembly lines were facing instant cost increases that would devastate their bottom lines. But here's where it gets really shocking. Within just 24 hours, Trump's entire tough guy stance completely collapsed. His Commerce Secretary was suddenly scrambling to get Canadian officials on the phone, practically begging to find what they called a path to tariff relief.
That 25% that he's proposing on our products is on top of a softwood lumber duty, which we're already paying at 14.5%.
I'm not even blaming the other countries that did this. I blame our leadership for allowing it to happen. I mean, who can blame them if they...
So much for America first, right? Let's look at the real numbers that forced this embarrassing reversal. Canada supplies over 80% of aluminum used in American manufacturing. Over 300,000 American jobs depend directly on trade with Canada. No wonder Trump's own economic advisors were having absolute meltdowns behind closed doors. Even the Wall Street Journal, hardly anti-Trump, called the tariff plan utterly self-mutilating and economic suicide for American interests.
the Trump administration has made clear that they expect to have these tariffs in place as early as March 4th. And we know
we've been taken advantage of. We were led by, in some cases, fools, because anybody that would sign documents like they signed where they were able to take advantage.
Meanwhile, Canada didn't waste any time showing Trump we won't be pushed around. Provincial liquor boards announced they were pulling American alcohol products off shelves. Canadian officials targeted Republican voting states with precision counter tariffs designed to hit Trump where it hurts most, right in his political base. American bourbon, beef, and automotive parts from key swing states were all in the crosshairs of Canada's retaliation plan. This instant reversal exposes the fatal weakness in Trump's economic strategy. He talks tough for the cameras, but crumbles when faced with real market consequences. Within hours of his own announcement, Trump was already backing down, with his team suddenly talking about exemptions and special relationships. This isn't strategic negotiation. It's pure panic when he realized these tariffs would hurt Americans even more than Canadians.
That he's imposed on multiple countries, but the deadline that matters for Canadians is just 6 days away. Oil and gas products will face 10% tariffs. The softwood lumber industry says it's bracing for the worst.
Just when markets were recovering from Trump's tariff panic, he dropped another bombshell claiming America will take Greenland one way or another. Yes, you heard that right. In a jaw-dropping statement, Trump declared, We need Greenland for national security and even international security, adding ominously that we're going to get it one way or another. This isn't just some random outburst. It's a calculated power play coming right after his humiliating tariff retreat. While Trump was busy fantasizing about territorial conquest, Pierre Poilievre was quietly crafting a brilliant counter-strategy that makes both Trump and Trudeau look like economic amateurs. Pierre's approach is shockingly practical, targeting American goods in a strategic sequence that protects Canadians. First, he'd target goods we can make ourselves, then goods we don't need, and finally goods we can easily source from other countries. This isn't just random retaliation, it's genius economic warfare. But Pierre's masterstroke goes even further. Unlike the Trudeau government's approach, Poilievre insists that almost every penny of the tariffs collected should go to tax cuts, with only a small portion used for workers hardest hit by trade disruptions. While Trudeau plans to use tariffs as a cash grab, Pierre wants to return that money to Canadians through immediate tax cuts on work, investment, energy, and home building.
Seen Donald Trump postpone these tariffs, and we have seen a reprieve over this brewing trade war. But now this trade war looks as though it's going to happen.
Ahead of next week's deadline to impose 25% tariffs on all Canadian imports.
The contrast between leaders couldn't be more stark. When asked about Canada's tariff response on MSNBC, Chrystia Freeland admitted that retaliation is going to make it worse, literally confessing their own strategy is harmful. Meanwhile, Pierre is proposing to repeal the liberal No New Pipelines law, C-69, that has left Canada dependent on a single customer, the very country now threatening us. Even supposed economic genius Mark Carney is stumbling, with his campaign having to walk back false claims about Canada being a semiconductor powerhouse.
Donald Trump, that is the question, as the U.S. president again signaled the U.S. will go ahead with those first punishing tariffs a week from today.
That you could imagine they took advantage of. I look at some of these agreements, I'd read them at night, and I'd say, who would ever sign a thing like this?
The humiliating correction revealed Canada ranks a measly 18th in semiconductor suppliers to the U.S., contributing just 0.8% of exports. This embarrassing blunder exposed the lack of economic understanding in Trudeau's circle, while Pierre delivers concrete solutions. When the economic chips are down, the real leaders stand out. Pierre Poilievre has just shown the world what effective leadership looks like with his counter-tariff strategy that's absolutely genius. Unlike Trudeau's approach that hurts everyday Canadians, Pierre's plan specifically targets American products without inflicting damage on Canadian consumers. This is the fundamental difference between these two leaders. One implements policies that crush Canadians with higher costs, while the other crafts targeted responses that protect our interests. The economic showdown between Canada and the U.S. has exposed who's really fighting for you. Pierre's laser-focused strategy proves he understands what truly matters.
So our industry is looking close to a 40% price on our products that'll be sitting on the shelves down in the United States.
Okay, more threatening comments towards Canada. Despite pressure from Canadian officials, from the federal government, from the premiers, doesn't appear there's any way at this.
Keeping money in your pocket while standing firm against foreign pressure. The path forward couldn't be more clear. Canada needs leadership that won't sacrifice its own citizens when responding to economic threats. Only one person has demonstrated the strategic vision to navigate these turbulent waters without sinking Canadian families in the process. The economic battle rages on, and now you know exactly who's fighting in your corner.